Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today, where we're going to be discussing how to choose the right CRM for your go-to-market teams. I'm Val Riley, I'm Head of Content Marketing at Insightly, and I'm going to be moderating today's webinar. Good news for you, you will receive both a copy of this webinar recording and a copy of the research report we're discussing today, delivered to your inbox this week. You're going to meet Chip House in just a moment. He's the CMO of Insightly. When he and I came on board here, we had a lot of questions about how people go about choosing CRM, what considerations go into that decision. And we elected to put out a survey, and the resulting research report was so interesting, we felt like it was worth sharing with you. And that was kind of the genesis for today's webinar. We're going to open up a quick poll here. This one is about what your current role is. And then we have another one that is going to pop up about asking you in your career, have you been in charge of choosing a CRM? So while you're answering that question, I will go ahead and let you know about our presenters today. First, we have Jenna Balegno. Jenna is the COO and Research Director at Ascend2. It's a company that specializes in B2B research. Jenna is joined by Chip House. He has more than 20 years of experience in growth and high growth SaaS companies in marketing and sales roles at a senior level. Jenna, Chip, we are so excited to have you here today and hear all about this research report. So I'll pass it over right to you guys.
Hey, thanks, Val. Really appreciate it and loved the hold music there. So when I looked at the poll for what the roles are, it looked like we mostly had marketing folks, followed by customer service and success, in addition to some salespeople, but lots of others. So I assume that's operations and rev ops, maybe IT, maybe CS also that didn't find themselves categorized anywhere else. But thank you for joining today. And Jenna, we have the goals for today's presentation up on the screen. Let's start there maybe. And if you could roll into the methodology behind the report that we're talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening and thanks for having me on. And just a quick note, I know talking about research might not sound like the most exciting thing you'll do all week, but I promise there's a ton of really good data here that we can go over, and hopefully you'll be able to pull from it and get the research report and use it as kind of as you navigate your experience with your CRM. So just to go over today's goals, we'll go through the CRM features that matter most to each of the go-to-market teams we surveyed, how and why CRM can better align your teams and provide a foundation for a better customer experience. We'll discuss just how important ease of use and then ultimately adoption is across teams and ways you can facilitate it to get the most out of your CRM. And then finally, we've got a super interesting stat that gives us some perspective on how project management kind of fits into the use of CRM and alignment of teams. We saved that one for the end for you, so stay tuned. As far as methodology goes for this research, when we set out to gain insight into the use of CRMs, we wanted to make sure that all of the teams that touch CRM were given a voice. So the data that we'll discuss today represents opinions from sales, marketing, service teams, and then also related operations teams. So rev ops, sales ops, and marketing ops, some of which you just mentioned, Chip. These people represent B2B companies covering a wide range of industries, as you can see. They're managers all the way up through the executive level. We conducted the survey in April of this year, which is great. This data is kind of hot off the presses for you, some fresh data for you.
Jenna, that's awesome. And it looks like from the poll, most people are actively involved in CRM selection at their business. So this should be some great data today. So Jenna, this was a really neat takeaway from the research. I thought, one of the overarching takeaways was that poor customer experiences cost organizations in a big way. And can you talk more about that data?
Yeah, it certainly pays off to be a customer-centric business these days. We're constantly seeing proof of this in the research that we do. the fact that great customer experiences make a major impact on overall success. I think we can all agree that today's customer or potential customer has incredibly high expectations when it comes to the experiences that they're having with your brand. So we actually found that 18% of the people from these go-to-market teams that we surveyed said that their organizations are able to provide exceptional customer experiences. So that best-in-class customer experience. What we did here, and actually throughout the research report, you'll see reference to this, is zero in on that segment of people delivering that best-in-class experience to see what we could learn from them. And one of the first things we noticed was that this group of businesses are seeing faster growth than those who are not nailing CX. So this group is about 2.5 times more likely to report significant revenue growth last year. The numbers behind that look like over 1/3, so 36% of those who rate their customer experience as exceptional report a significant increase in revenue growth last year, compared to just 14% of those who delivered less than exceptional experiences. So basically, if you aren't getting customer experiences right, you're missing out on revenue and overall business growth.
Yeah, Jenna, I love that that stat, and it just sort of proves what it feels like we all know intuitively, is that treating your customers well makes your business more successful, right? But it's really cool to see how that kind of played out in this data. I think the next stat is super interesting also. One of the reasons we saw that to be an issue with responses is that the alignment among internal go-to-market teams tends to be kind of low.
Yeah, we found there to be a general lack of alignment across teams. We can see here that just 1 in 5 organizations have completely aligned data that flows between their sales, marketing, and service teams. We took a closer look at this segment of these entirely aligned teams and found that they saw more revenue growth last year and are able to deliver better customer experiences actually too. So the numbers behind this look like, I think 43% of those with completely aligned data and technology across teams report delivering exceptional customer experiences versus just 11% of those with less aligned teams. So about 4 times more likely to report that best-in-class experience, which is pretty powerful stuff. There is just this very clear connection between the idea of unified data and alignment as it allows for better customer experiences that then promotes revenue growth. So definitely something to pay attention to for sure. And I do think that this is a result of access to that data so that each team can make decisions based on that single source of truth. So at the end of the day, this enables better customer experience across the entire life cycle and on all touch points.
Yeah, it's sort of that dream of the unified view of the customer, and those companies that are truly seeing those teams align are actually growing faster and they're delivering better experiences. So, I mean, this really flows nicely into a discussion about tools for customer relationship management. And I thought this data was interesting also on what people are actually using. And I was surprised to see how many organizations are still using spreadsheets or their own homegrown systems, and some are not using anything at all. So, what did you think about this, Jenna?
Yeah, I was surprised too. And remember, we surveyed mid-market organizations, so organizations with 50 to 500 employees. So yeah, I think for many businesses, it's time. It's time to adopt a CRM tool that can kind of address the needs of all the teams involved in forming that customer relationship. And I think these more formal tools just make everyone's life easier when used properly, right? We actually did find that those with the more formal tools, the three listed here at the top of this chart, small business CRMs, mid-market CRMs, or enterprise CRMs, report that they are more satisfied with how they're currently managing customer relationships. So with their current solution, which is interesting. So what stands out to me here is the enterprise segment. Yeah. So there's 14% that say that they're using enterprise level solutions. So it got us thinking a little bit, and we were interested in taking a closer look at the segment of enterprise CRM users. Since again, we were surveying mid-market companies, and we found that 2/3 of them come from respective teams of less than 50 people. So, I mean, there a little side note here. This group using enterprise solutions was much more likely to list initial and ongoing cost as a top complaint about their CRM. So that signals to me that they maybe over-invested in a solution that they very likely underutilize, which I'm sure more than a few people listening right now can relate to.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a super interesting takeaway, as well as that people are kind of overbuying from a CRM standpoint when they should really be optimizing around things like adoption and integration and ease of use for their companies. So let's transition to the next slide here, Jenna. So the survey respondents told us that the top benefits of an effective CRM, according to those who are most satisfied with their CRM tool, are better, have better customer data, and they're more organized, and they have more streamlined processes.
Yeah. So a little background here, just like you mentioned, we asked for participants to tell us how satisfied they are with their current solution, and found that just over 1 in 5 said that they are extremely satisfied with their CRM. That's pretty alarming in and of itself. And we'll talk about that in a slide coming up, but we did want to learn a little bit more from this group. Basically, they can tell us, what are the most satisfied CRM users getting out of their solution? What's best case scenario? So yeah, it turns out your CRM can promote better customer data and greater efficiencies, among other things we see here, higher sales and faster growth, for instance. But we also found that nearly all of this group, this high satisfaction group, actually 95% of them have aligned teams. So again, it really all comes back to that idea that alignment promotes better utilization of the data, which leads to better CX, which ultimately leads to growth.
Yeah, super interesting data, and thinking ahead, Jenna, I know that when we designed this study with you, we wanted to know, how often companies switch CRMs, and so this next data set was pretty surprising to me also, is that organizations are switching CRMs more often than I thought, right? I mean, the bulk are on their current CRM for less than 3 years.
Yeah. There doesn't seem to be much CRM longevity, does there? Yeah, we see about 2/3 of organizations have been using their solution for less than 3 years. What's interesting here is that 41% of this group, so approaching half of this group that's been using their current solution for less than 3 years, say that they will be shopping for a new CRM in the coming year. And wow. I think this, I think this happens kind of more than we realize, and I'm sure you've seen it, Chip. But a quick decision is made, or maybe one that doesn't involve all the teams that are going to be using the tool every day. Or maybe, a great option was chosen, but the implementation just doesn't go well, like adoption, training, integrating, and so on aren't as smooth as they had hoped. And the result is a CRM that either doesn't actually work for what you need it for, or that you can't fully utilize.
Yeah, I think the question now in everybody's head is, well, why are people switching so often, right? And I think that the next slide, this one here, talks about where the unsatisfaction comes from. So I think it's interesting if you could dig into this a bit.
Yeah, so satisfaction overall, like I mentioned before, seems to be low. So what we're looking at here is a breakdown of that satisfaction data that I had mentioned. Most people we surveyed are just somewhat satisfied and won't go so far as to say that they are extremely satisfied with their current solution. And for satisfaction levels of a technology that so many people in your organization touch on a day-to-day basis, and that so clearly and directly impacts the customer experience, that 21% is a pretty low number.
Yeah.
So what's causing this dissatisfaction? We actually thought it would be interesting to see biggest complaints from VPs and executives versus those in like managerial and director roles. And it looks like managers and directors who presumably are more involved in the day-to-day use of their CRM are complaining about missing or inadequate features. So features that basically help them do their job better. They're also kind of plagued by this lack of ability to customize their CRM for exactly what they need it for. So they're having to use excessive amounts of code, they're having to involve IT and so on for things that probably impact their everyday use of the tool, which is obviously not ideal. And of course, we see executives are looking at the scalability and overall cost being an issue. And again, with a cost issue here, we come back to, did they over purchase a big product for a smaller team? Are they not getting enough out of it because the product's meant for an enterprise, perhaps?
Yeah.
I think we can.
Yeah, I mean, when a company goes into buy a CRM, right? I mean, have a number of different expectations, and I would assume they're planning on keeping it longer than 2 years, right? But what we're finding is because there seems to be a mismatch, more organizations are CRM shopping, and I think this data here is really helpful to learn why are they shopping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they want to see improved workflows. They want to use a tool that will make their jobs easier, right? When you work out the bottlenecks and get the workflows right and get all of your data in one place, the customer ends up reaping the benefits of that at the end of the day, which you see here, improving the customer experience. So they see it through better, more consistent experiences during every interaction with the company, every touch point, with every team. So, what's interesting here is we see that organizations are craving that alignment also, with 42% considering it to be a driving factor behind this consideration. So, yeah, that's something of note as well.
For sure. So Jenna, let's move on to how organizations are evaluating a new CRM. Price and ease of use are at the top of the list. People are going to judge ease of use on the features they use the most, probably. And that's surely going to vary by department. What does each team prioritize feature-wise?
Yeah, so just a note here. What's interesting is that 98% of that completely aligned segment we talked about say that a CRM is more effective if more employees across different teams use it properly. So the more use across teams, the more effective. It's just another point about how important this ease of use and adoption is. But if we move on to the next slide, we can see how each team responded to this question. So what are the most wanted features in a CRM segmented by department? We can see sales teams are most concerned with sales forecasting features that they can easily use. So being able to see the metrics and, lead activity and so on that allows them to do their job better, right? Notably here, looking at the marketing teams, They are looking for ways to engage always, and they want email options. So maybe really pretty and easy to use templates, for instance, tracking sends, tracking open rates, tracking conversions, and so on. Um, another item of note is document management is common across all teams and ranks #1 for service teams. So having everything in one place is, again, going to make everyone's life easier, working on the same versions of things, coming back to that single source of truth. And we see dashboard views, reporting, and analytics among all of these departments as well. So that visualization of analytics and data is just super important to every team. This full view of what's happening in customer accounts across all departments helps everyone kind of have the most relevant conversations as possible with each of their customers. You know, it helps sales see activity and interactions that leads have had with marketing already, for instance. It helps marketing take a closer look at pipeline. So creating these customer views per team and even per individual is extremely helpful. And again, access to this data all in one place and presented in a way that works for each team is going to ultimately help each team serve the customer more effectively.
For sure. I think it's really interesting that, dashboard views, reporting, and analytics are sort of a common theme across all teams, no matter what role you're in. And then each team has sort of different priorities within that, but they all are built around, hey, what's happening with my customers, with my leads, with my marketing, with my customer success tickets, whatever inside of the system. And that's why the dashboarding and reporting is so critical. So, I know that, when you buy a new CRM, implementing it, driving it through the team and training people is super, super important. So the final section that we wanted to highlight is implementation challenges. Can you go over what ranked the highest, Jenna?
Yeah, so training time is #1. No matter how you slice and dice this data up, training time is the biggest challenge people are facing during implementation. I also have to wonder if training can sometimes be more of a perceived challenge than an actual challenge, like one of those things that kind of creates more anxiety up front and just isn't so bad if you approach it in a smart and strategic way. Just because there are so many tools out there now that can streamline the training process. But yeah, training time is a huge anxiety for all respondents, or for 43% of those surveyed. So we also see integrating existing systems, another point of contention for go-to-market teams. So integrations, I mean, you have to have them. They allow for that flow of data from team to team, and getting everything into that one place. So definitely need to make sure your CRM speaks to your other systems. And a way to overcome this, is when you're evaluating a new CRM, this is something that it's just super important to assess and discuss across teams, including, IT and finance and HR, not just sales and marketing and service teams. So we want to make sure that integrations that all of your teams need exist or could exist in the solution that you're implementing. And we also took a look at, what is there to lose if you don't overcome these challenges? And of course, employee frustration and wasted time top this list. And again, the rollout of a tool that will impact the day-to-day of so many of your employees needs to be done very strategically. There has to be a plan, kind of, in order to not uproot everyone's lives.
Sure. Yeah, no, you made a really great point there too about how sometimes the key stakeholders, might be outside of sales or marketing or rev ops. It could be the finance team, right? That really needs to have the billing and the accounting data integrated to their systems, QuickBooks or whatever it happens to be. And so, yeah, integrating is a really interesting and sort of consistent theme. So this next one is kind of a surprise that came out of the survey for me, and it's project management. So I thought that was an interesting stat. I assume you did too, Jenna.
Yeah, this is kind of our aha moment, surprise data point. 93% of the go-to-market teams that we surveyed said that they would adopt a project management tool if it was native to their CRM tool. So this is huge, right? Having that flow of data continue into the project management side is appealing to almost everyone. And I can see why. Like, having a project management extension of your CRM would mean that you could continue that tracking and management of processes without skipping a beat. The project management team would have access to all of that customer data accumulated up until handoff. And I assume that handoff would obviously be much smoother as well. And this, I think, would overall kind of encourage that alignment of teams that we know is so crucial for, that business growth.
Yeah, I think it's a super interesting stat. I know that we have a lot of customers that kind of manage the customer journey all the way from sales, marketing, service into the project management. And so I'm just happy to see that there's a lot of people, a lot of different types of companies that see that similar value. So, I think we're already to the end of our core, but what are the big takeaways, Jenna?
Yeah, so to sum it all up, I think it's safe to say that a CRM can be a catalyst for go-to-market team alignment, right? As long as you're choosing the right one based on the needs of your organization. We saw that when the technology and data that these teams use is aligned, the business grows faster. These teams also have more confidence in the level of customer experience that they're providing. Second big takeaway here is that businesses are willing to kind of jump ship on their current CRMs. And we saw big numbers in shopping for CRMs, even with those who have relatively newly implemented solutions. We also saw low satisfaction for such an important technology for businesses to get right. And the final takeaway here is with implementation. It is absolutely essential to consider training and integrations and data migration in order to successfully roll out a new CRM. So yeah, that's the big takeaways, and I think we can hand it back over to Val.
Chip, Jenna, thank you so much for sharing all that great information and taking the time today. We've set aside some time for Q&A, so hold on for a moment. If folks want to take a few minutes now to drop in a question, we already had some really good ones come in. In the meantime, Chip, would you spend a few moments telling the folks a little bit about Insightly?
Yeah, thanks so much, Val. And Jenna, thank you for the phenomenal research study and your help going through it. It was really, really great. And for all of you watching, if a new CRM is in your future, it's a good time to check out Insightly. Insightly CRM is easy to adopt. It's very customizable and integrates easily with your other applications you use to run your business. We hear from customers that they are fully up and running with Insightly in just weeks and growing revenue up to 300% in less than a year, as you can see from that customer quote on the screen there. Also, if alignment across teams is resonating with you, then you'll want to look into Insightly Marketing, which we use for all of our marketing, a full-featured marketing automation platform built for marketers. Plus, please let your customer support team know about Insightly Service, our customer service ticketing system. Again, we use ourselves to support over 10,000 customers. It's ready to help you elevate your own customer experiences we really like it Insightly, of course. We'd love it. We'd love to show it to you, frankly. So feel free to sign up for a demo either here or when you receive our follow-up email. And thanks again for joining us today. And Val, I think a few wrap-up things, and then we're going to questions, right?
Yeah, we can move right into questions, I think. Do you see the first one pop up there?
Yes. So we have a question from Debbie, and her question is about security. How are you securing my customers' data, and how is that guaranteed? So, I can definitely talk to, high level. Insightly is SOC 2 certified. We have people in the healthcare business that use our platform. So we're HIPAA compliant as well. And, obviously being in the business that we're in, security is a top priority for us, Debbie. And so, you probably want somebody other than the CMO talking to you about security. So I'd be happy to get on the phone with you and have one of our security experts talk to you in more detail. Delane is asking, does this work for nonprofits and for donor tracking as well? We do have a number of customers in the nonprofit space. We really have all industries covered on the CRM platform, and also using our marketing and our service tools as well. So that's a great question. So another question from Delane. So can we integrate with WordPress? The answer is yes. One of our core products is App Connect, which is a middleware, a low-code, no-code integration platform that allows you to do a lot of that integration yourself, with some support from our team. And so, yeah, and we have a number of customers integrating with WordPress today. Happy to work on it with you too. So there's another question here I'd love to ask Jenna. Were there insights into what departments drove the CRM selection? Was it sales? Was it marketers like myself? Was it service? Was it ops? Who really drove it? Was there anything from the survey that talked about that?
Yeah, we did ask who they felt were driving the decision making, and interestingly, each group tended to lean toward thinking that they owned it the same amount. So I think overall, executive leadership came out on top, followed closely by sales and marketing leaders. But there were some interesting disparities between departments about who's driving that decision making. So sales and marketing both believe that their respective departments have kind of an equal weight in the decision making process as executive leadership, which could potentially form a problem in the decision making process, but was definitely kind of a compelling piece of data to see.
Yeah, it is super interesting. I saw earlier that we have a lot of marketers on the phone. So marketers, please involve your other teams when you're picking your CRM, because you're just going to have better adoption, better outcomes, things like that when people are fully engaged with you on the selection. So another follow-up looks like from Debbie. Does Insightly also work with Wix? So our App Connect product works and integrates with over 500 different products. And we've also built a number of custom integrations. Off the top of my head, I don't specifically know about that integration, Debbie, but it's likely that we do. And so we'd love to talk to you about it. So another question came in: what kind of marketing insights does Insightly provide in terms of social media performance and website tracking? So there's a number of different capabilities of the marketing platform itself. Marketing automation is a really key and important feature for sales and marketing teams choosing any CRM, right? Is how do you kind of create that interaction with your customers through their journey? And so that includes, being able to track who's visiting the website and converting on Insightly landing pages, no matter where they're coming from, frankly. It could be an email campaign inside of the system. It could be an external ad or a social media, organic or paid advertisement as well. So yeah, we're focused on all those things primarily inside of our marketing application. So Val, do we have a little bit more time for others?
Yeah, I think there's a couple more we can do just under the wire, Chip. The one I'm seeing is related to the research. It's why are people not using a CRM? And maybe Jenna has some insights on that one.
I'm actually excited about this because we actually asked those who weren't using a CRM, who noted that they weren't using a CRM, why they weren't. And you can actually find all of this information in the final report, but the most common reasons reported were just not feeling the need for a CRM. And then the second most common reason was that thought that too much time and resources would be required to implement. So again, maybe just a perceived anxiety that can be worked out through strategy and planning of rolling out a system. And actually, interestingly, we saw, just like a little side note there, and I remember this call out from the report, but we saw extremely low numbers from this group that weren't using a CRM in how they rate their overall customer experience. So I think something like 5% of that group said that they were delivering exceptional customer experiences. So just a little kind of kick in the pants to people to get going on that CRM selection.
No kidding. Some really compelling data here that shows why you might want to consider a CRM quickly.
Let's do just one more, Chip. I thought this one was interesting. Somebody who appears to be in that segment that overbought. So like my CEO wanted to buy our last system, and so we bought an enterprise system. We're definitely underutilizing it, but we might need something like that in 5 or 10 years. So how do I get the CEO to say, well, let's switch and pick something else?
Yeah, I can take that, Val. So, well, it's interesting. I thought that data was interesting because we have small companies, startups adopting enterprise platforms, which don't make any sense to me, knowing that when CRM implementations fail, about 70% of the time, it's because, the rollout was difficult or was difficult to use. And so it was not adopted by all the teams. And, what we've learned from a lot of enterprise solutions is certainly they can become usable with a lot of services to make them customized and usable. And often, companies, if they're small, end up overspending trying to customize their enterprise CRM, versus trying to have something that out of the box is much easier to adapt and use, inside of your business. So I can understand why companies think they need to do that, but I think we've got compelling data that shows those that adopt the right size CRM are actually much happier.
Right. And I mean, we learned from the data that switching isn't so scary because people are doing it.
Right. Yeah. It's not unusual. So those are great questions. Thanks to everybody for those questions. And we hope to see you at our webinars in the future. You will be getting some follow-up information. I'll let you, Val, talk to you about it.
Yeah, so if your question wasn't answered, someone will reach out with a personal response to that question. We are going to, again, send this recording and a copy of that research report. You guys are going to be the first ones to get it. So you'll see that in your inbox this week. I want to thank Jenna and Chip and all of you for joining us today, and we will see you next time.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.